Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill Muck, a professor of political science at North Central College, and this gorgeous guy is Phil Barker, professor of political science at Keene State College. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Bill.
We're back for a quick 5 minutes. We're going to talk about the Bob Woodward book. There's lots to talk about with that book, but specifically, it was revealed that in February, Donald Trump had sat down and talked about Woodward and said that this is deadly stuff, talking about the COVID, and suggested that he was intentionally downplaying it, that it was very deadly, much worse than the flu. All right, Phil, big deal, little deal, or no deal?
Did you start the timer?
I started the timer.
Okay, good. So last week we talked about the Atlantic story on calling soldiers losers and suckers, and how it should be a big deal. It is a big deal, but it may not actually play out to be a big deal. It feels like this is the same thing. This is a huge deal, right? So the president, it's not just that there are reports he said this. Woodward has tapes of the interviews, 18 different interviews.
You could listen to it.
Right. The audio is out there, in which back in February, when Trump is openly talking about how this is no big deal, it's going to go away, there's no need to worry. He's behind the scenes talking about how, oh yeah, this is a big deal. It's way deadlier than the flu. His national security people are saying this might be the most significant sort of homeland security type issue that you're going to deal with in your presidency. So, I mean, the hypocrisy of the public facing side saying no big deal, play it down. Whereas behind the scenes, he knows how deadly this is. This is a huge deal. Like everything else, I don't know that it's going to have a massive impact on his approval. Certainly it's going to, I would assume that some people are going to be upset about this. People who already aren't upset at Trump will maybe become upset at Trump, but who knows? This is a strange world we live in. What do you think?
Well, because there are real practical implications to this, right? So if Trump had taken it as seriously as he believed it to be in February, a lot of the analysts say that we could have saved lives. I mean, it's not just a political dynamic here, that there's real implications to this. I think it's interesting to think about. The presidents lie to the public all of the time, right? This is not an uncommon thing. Usually when the president lies to the public, it's for a national security reason, right? So you don't want to get into the details of something. And oftentimes it's for political. I think the only reason he's doing this is for political reasons. He said he wants to downplay it. He said he wanted to downplay it because he didn't want to cause a panic. This is a guy who loves to cause a panic, right? I mean, just some of the ads that they've released in the last couple of days are based entirely on panic, right?
The world's going to end if Biden wins. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole gist of his campaign.
So he's expecting us to believe that he did this so he wouldn't cause a panic, while he's causing all sorts of other panics. I like you said, compared to the topic last week, again, I don't know if it makes any difference in moving the needle in support for Trump or not, but it does feel like a slow chipping away at all of this. And this one may be a bit more so than last week because we have a tape, right? Trump can deny that he called fallen U.S. soldiers suckers and losers. He can't deny that he literally said this. Again, another week, another bizarre story.
Yeah, the other aspect of the trying to calm, like he doesn't want to cause a panic. There's one way, I don't know, downplay. Trump has compared himself to Churchill in this whole process. During the Blitz, during the bombing of London, and people have pointed out, appropriately so, that there's a difference between going out and trying to reassure people. And going out and saying there's no problem at all, right? Like somebody, I don't know who it was, I saw somebody said Churchill wasn't encouraging people to go, turn all their lights on and hang out in the street, right? Like Trump has been, it's not just downplaying it. He's talking about how it's a hoax and encouraging people not to wear masks and to reopen. So it's more than I'm trying to keep calm. He's like he's like making the situation worse with this whole, with this approach. That's bizarre. It's not bizarre. I mean, compared to the 3 years we've been through, but it's strange from a big political science kind of approach to, history.
Yeah, it's bad in terms of running a campaign. It's also really, really bad in terms of running a government. I mean, if one of your primary jobs as president is to keep the country safe and alive, and it sounds like by doing this, he's doing the exact opposite. Now, I'm going to ask you, what about his defense? So yesterday he had this confrontational press conference where they asked him, the lead question is, why did you lie to the American public? And of course he said, I didn't lie. And my favorite, he followed up and said, if Bob Woodward thought this was so terrible, he should have come out and said it right away and not keep it a secret. So Phil, is the real villain in all this Bob Woodward?
Yeah, there's an interesting kind of ethical question about if Bob Woodward knew this and had the tapes back in February and waited this long to come out with it to sell a book. There's that question of whether that's ethical or not, and there's a whole other debate to be had there. But yeah, I mean, the idea that Trump, who is the one who is doing this, but the problem is that Bob Woodward knew and didn't tell anyone is a strange sort of convoluted logic. But you know, there are people on Fox News and whatnot who have jumped on board with this and run with it. But you've never liked Bob Woodward, though.
He's the gold standard.
After he
man.
took down Nixon, you've had an issue with him ever since.
Right, and so there's a couple things to that, and there's the bell, but we'll wrap up real quick. I mean, one, Bob Woodward, it's not as if nobody didn't know this already. I mean, it's been very clear that Trump has been downplaying this. The difference is that Trump has admitted it, right? He has admitted it. And I think the other interesting angle about this is when you listen to those audio tapes, Trump sounds much more sophisticated in his conversations with Bob Woodward than he does when he's explaining this to the public, right? He's, he's very good about being repetitive with the public, keeping things very, very simple. And in that conversation, it's clear he has a nuanced understanding of why this is dangerous. It's aerosolized, right? So he gets all of those details, and then he comes out with this more monotonous, simple, repetitive story. So I think there's that angle as well. But Bob Woodward has a right to sell books. I don't blame Bob Woodward for this. My guess is there's going to be lots of other nuggets. The thing with Trump is we know all of these things, and it's just further evidence.
I think you're right, and not to go on too long, but there's I think this perception that maybe Trump's slow response or his refusal to kind of heed the science was because he didn't get it, right? That he doesn't listen to the science, or he doesn't want to believe it. And this reveals that that's not the case, right? He understood. And so it wasn't that he doesn't get it. He gets it. He's choosing to take this strategy. Somebody's going to get fired, right? I mean, he wanted these interviews. Anytime, I could have told you, if Trump does 18 interviews with Bob Woodward that are on record, it's gonna go badly. And apparently people around Trump didn't want that to happen. Yes. But yeah, somebody will pay the price, even though it was Trump's idea to do it.
Because Trump loves it. He loves being interviewed by Bob Woodward, but this is going to be a terrible, terrible thing, this next book that comes out. So, all right, we'll wrap up here. Follow us on YouTube and tune in next Wednesday to the Politics Lab podcast. Good chatting with you, Phil.
Bye, Bill.